All right, next question. Kay Cotwis, who says this: have you had a chance to watch the Peter Thiel interview with Ross Douthat? Thiel stutters and hesitates when he's asked, quote, should the human race continues? He also thinks our biggest problem is, quote, stagnation, and that anyone who's weary or cautious about the risks of AI, biotech, and nuclear war is, quote, the Antichrist. And he unironically says that Greta Thunberg is more likely to bring about a one-world totalitarian state. Isn't it deeply concerning that these tech billionaires think of themselves as philosophers, especially when their insane pseudo-religious cult holds so much political influence? Do we have the clip of this, by the way? I don't think we do. It's my fault. I don't think I asked for it. So I wish we had it, but if we don't, it's because of my omission. I don't want to be too cavalier about paraphrasing this. The question did do a good job of describing it. I'd rather show the actual words, and maybe we'll be able to pull that up. We're going to check for you. If you haven't heard it, it's really worth watching. It definitely, I understand why it provoked this question. So let me focus on the part that I do actually feel comfortable paraphrasing, which is Ross Douthat did ask Peter Thiel, do you favor the continuation of the human race? Is this something that you actually think is a good thing? And Elon Musk has been asked this before. Part of what Elon Musk wants to do is make sure humanity is multiplanetary, start with life on Mars. And a lot of people think, oh, that you must think that's because humanity on the Earth is doomed. Otherwise, why is it so important to you to make humanity multiplanetary? There are other reasons why you might, but that's the suspicion. And not just to make it multiplanetary because the Earth is doomed, but also to transform what it means to be human. And there's been this kind of philosophy that has been popular among these more extreme Silicon Valley types of transhumanism, something that transcends humanity or fundamentally transforms it. Typically, I think merging humanity with technology or with machine for a superior being. It's definitely how a lot of them think of artificial intelligence. I one time got a root canal, which I hate as much as anybody. I think I hate it more, but probably everyone hates it equally. But one of the only good things about it is because it lasts often 2 hours, I have the time to sit and listen to podcasts that ordinarily I wouldn't have time to listen to, or the inclination, just because I have to have my brain distracted. I can't, even if my mouth is totally numb and I don't feel it. I don't like hearing what the dentist is doing. I don't want to think about what tools he's using and why. There's almost no job I'd rather have least than being a dentist and just constantly being in someone's mouth every day looking at their teeth. But whatever, so I try and distract myself. And one of the ways I did so in the last few months is I listened to Mark Zuckerberg's appearance on Joe Rogan, and Mark Zuckerberg was talking at length about his vision that soon we're going to take all these devices, virtual reality devices and AI devices, and they're no longer going to be exterior instruments that we wear, like goggles on our head, or phones, or earpieces, or things in our phone. It's going to be part of our anatomy. And he was talking about drilling into brains in order to have this technology part of the human brain. And at first he said the first use is going to be medical. Somebody has a neurological injury or some other serious neurological problem. This machine will help them with that functionality. But clearly he was talking as well about an ultimate merger between technology and human beings, which in one way may not change the nature of human beings in the beginning. It's just kind of another instrument. You could imagine this earpiece. I'm wearing an earpiece because I need to be able to communicate with people I work with. But say you wear an earpiece of the kind people use commonly now to listen to things on a computer, connect by Bluetooth to their phones. Does it really change humanity if instead of just having this come in and out, it's just now implanted in our ears? Does it really change humanity? But when you start talking about the brain and changing how our brains think and produce thought, or having AI be the future of what a human being should be, but in a superior form, that's clearly transhumanistic. That's transforming what a human being fundamentally is. There's all kinds of questions that come with that. If you believe in a soul, does this have a soul? And the way Mark Zuckerberg was so cavalier in talking about it, I found very creepy. And let me show you this clip. Now, let me just say one thing. I think the question referenced that Peter Thiel stuttered when he answered and kind of had big pauses. Peter Thiel always does that. And the reason is because, and he's talked about this before, he's autistic. And that means you don't have the same capacity for social interaction. And one of the things Peter Thiel said, and I find a lot of what Peter Thiel says disturbing, but one of the things he said that I found super interesting was a few years ago, and he was talking about autism. And he was saying that in a lot of ways, he thinks that being autistic, not severely autistic, where you aren't verbal, you can't interact with people at all, somewhere on the spectrum of where he places himself, that the benefit of it is that when you don't have autism and you're very clued into social cues, and we are social and political animals, we do interact as groups, we are not solitary beings, that if you're so aware of social cues and you're constantly receiving what social cues are, in a way it's making you more conformist. It's kind of morphing you into society. You understand what society expects of you. You understand what society thinks. You understand what you're supposed to say in certain situations, in most situations. And he was saying that that can really make you conformist. It can kind of just make you part of this blob. Whereas he sees his autism as almost a gift, because feeling detached or excluded or isolated from majoritarian societal sentiments and ethos and mores forces you to see things differently, to look at things differently. And then that, of course, is the kind of thing that can lead to innovation, invention. Steve Jobs was not autistic, but he actually has said in interviews, people don't like to talk about this, but it's so true, that had he not taken LSD and had experience with other hallucinogens, he never would have invented the iPad or various Apple products, that it was that kind of transcendent thought that enabled him to have this vision that he otherwise wouldn't have had. And on some level, mind-altering drugs can be analogized to autism. And so, yes, Peter Thiel stutters, he stumbles. Oftentimes, it seems like he's sweating or, having difficulty answering a question, when in reality, it's his autism and the way he speaks. But it does affect how people perceive him. And so let me show you this clip that the question asked, because I think it's really worth hearing him in his own words. Let's go ahead and show that.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also would. I also would like us to radically solve these problems.
Right.
And so it's always, I don't know. Transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or a transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross-dresses, and a transsexual is someone where you change your, penis into a vagina, and we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's so pathetically little. And we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body. And then Orthodox Christianity, by the way, the critique Orthodox Christianity has of this is these things don't go far enough. Like that transhumanism is just changing your body, but you also need to transform.
Okay. So there it is. And let me say a couple things about this. People who think about changes in the future are often looked at as strange and weird because generally the future is something we can't really imagine. I remember when I was young, I'm still young, but I remember when I was younger, when I was a child, and I used to go visit my grandparents, and my grandfather was born in 1904, my grandmother was born in 1910, and I used to spend a lot of time over there when I was younger, and I constantly thought about how bizarre it was that they were born into a world that didn't have airplanes, didn't have radio, didn't have television, didn't really have phones. And then during their lifetime, like all this technology that previously had been considered unthinkable, like how is something going to fly in the air over, the earth? How are people going to talk to each other using like weird connective machines? Or, television that started off black and white and then became color, or film that started off silent and then became with audio. All these things were unthinkable at the beginning. And I always think, well, it must be so strange to be born into a world where this unthinkable technology doesn't exist, and then suddenly it arrives and it just changes your world. And all those technologies obviously had a major effect on the world. And then I had my own experience. I was born in 1967, so it wasn't really until the mid-90s when the internet's really started to become something that is recognizable when we compare it to now. And I was, 24, 25 when the internet started really being something that I used in my life. And obviously it's a major transformative innovation. And so if you had thought about the internet before it happened, it would seem inconceivable. And so people who describe the future in ways that seem inconceivable always come off as very strange and weird. So I think we ought to acknowledge that. But I want to say two things on the other side as kind of big caveats. One is the idea of a billionaire. Until you really interact with billionaires, it's hard to explain what they're like. And I've had pretty close interactions with many of them. Obviously, I founded a media company with one of them, Pierre Midyar, who I think is worth like $12 billion or whatever. And a lot of other people in Silicon Valley whom I've gotten to know some. Being rich obviously doesn't describe that. Like the amount of wealth that you have, like when you're a billionaire, you don't think of yourself as just rich. You start thinking about, what you can do to change the world, change the government, like change countries, change culture. It's so much power. It's so much money. And with power and money comes, in almost every case, being surrounded by sycophants. People constantly flattering you, constantly saying yes to everything that you think and say and want. Because power means you can do so many things for people that benefit their lives. And if they know that you have that, they're going to want to flatter you so that there's a chance you're going to give those things to them. And obviously, it makes people in that situation so detached from reality and so enamored of themselves just because all their influences are telling them that they are brilliant and that they're genius and that they see things people don't see. And sometimes that may be true. There are probably billionaires. I guess I know a couple who I would consider extremely smart. But the majority of them, including ones I've worked with, I can tell you, I'm not going to say they're dumb. They're mediocre. Sometimes they have like an idiot savant skill that turned into a company that just, exploded at the right time. Everyone's success has partly some luck. You have to be in the right place at the right time. And a lot of these people who walk around thinking they're brilliant and have the power with their billions of dollars to bring those visions to fruition and to convince people that they should are not even remotely close to as smart as they think. And so when they start getting these visions and everyone around them tells them how brilliant they are and everything about their lives is reinforcing their own brilliance, I do think that can be a very twisted and dangerous dynamic. And then there is this very specific billionaire culture, especially the ones that came out of Silicon Valley, that believes that they are the kinds of people who society ought to progress and evolve and transform into, and that the society just doesn't facilitate that. The society punishes success, it impedes transformative kind of Ubermensch, to use a Nietzschean term, expression. And they have ideas like they want to just start new societies. They want to like buy a country or buy so much land that it can become its own country, and they just create a society from scratch where they're the overlords and they create rules. And obviously it then extends to like, maybe we shouldn't even do it on Earth. Let's start our own society on Mars or wherever. And it becomes this very utopian and dystopian vision driven by a tiny number of people who have no real pushback or tension between the things that come out of their mouths from their brains into their mouths, and then they can try and make reality and have the power to make reality. That a lot of that is, I think, very alarming. We ought to be very, very, very skeptical of that, even in the cases where it might be promising. And finally, I would say that, and a lot of this just depends on what you think. If you're completely a nihilist and an atheist, and you just believe everything is just kind of nihilistic evolution, no purpose, no spirit, no soul. We just keep evolving over millions of years, and human beings is just where we are now is just one stop along the way, and our next destination is something totally different. It probably wouldn't bother you. But if you have a kind of idea of something essentialist about being human, that turning us into beings that exist in an AI vat and eliminating us, every part of us except our intellect, that may not be an advancement, that may be a destruction of humanity while maintaining the facade of it. This is the kind of stuff that I think requires a great deal of introspection, a great deal of thought, a great deal of debate involving the whole society. But because billionaires have this ability to just push things along with no constraints, how AI is just exploding, really with no safeguards. I mean, there's some superficial safeguards, like if you use ChatGPT or the commercial ones, they don't let it do certain things that it could easily do, but you can imagine how it's actually being developed. And the people who don't want those safeguards to exist are using AI without those safeguards. None of this is being understood. None of this is being analyzed or studied. And I'm not an alarmist at all about technology, even including AI. But I think it's more this kind of narcissism and this self-adoration that naturally develops in billionaires that gives them far too much confidence in their own ability to push humanity into directions that they think it should go, and really don't need much debate in order to do it because their brains are sufficiently advanced to make those decisions and to see those things on their own. And the proof is that they became billionaires. That's how the reasoning works. That, I think, is the most dangerous dynamic rather than the specific things. And yeah, when Peter Thiel starts saying, I'm not sure humanity should continue. Okay, I'll say yes, just because you obviously think it's extremely creepy if I don't, but I'm then going to add that like maybe we should exist in some other form. That, I think, I hope people are disturbed by that. I'm not saying necessarily opposed to it, but I hope they're disturbed by it in a way that they kind of demand some time and reflection in order to consider. Here is our final announcement. As you know, we rely on our locals community. That's how we enable our independent journalism. We rely on the support of our members and our viewers. And we have a special offer for you for the 4th of July for those who haven't yet joined locals but would like to. If you join locals and you use the promo code July 4th, celebratory promo code to celebrate the birth of our country, the constitutional guarantees it offers, et cetera, you get 4 months free on the annual subscription. So you can become a member for the year, and the regular price is the regular price, but 4 months free you will get on the annual subscription. That's not an offer we've ever made before. We don't have plans to offer it in the future. It's something that we're doing for these months of July and August, but specifically for July 4th, all you have to do is click the join button right below the video player normal page and just use that promo code Glenn, and it will, July 4th rather, and it will take you there. And as we've talked before, it offers a lot of different benefits, exclusive streaming of certain segments, a lot of original content. We take your questions solely from the locals members that we answer here. It's a place we publish professionalized transcripts of every show we broadcast here. We publish those the next day. And again, most of all, it's the community on which we really do rely to support the independent journalism that we do here every night. Simply click the join button right below the video player on the Rumble page, and it will take you directly to that community. For those who've been watching this show, we are, of course, very appreciative. That also is what enables us to keep doing the show, and we hope to see you back on Monday night and every night at 7 p.m. Eastern, live exclusively here on Rumble. Have a great evening and a great July 4th holiday, everybody. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.